Part 44. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 435. There is no winner in this war. The seventh prince, who won in the end, no longer has enough high-end combat power to deter several first-level empires. Their strength is even inferior to that of the second-level empire. The third prince died on the spot, and the second prince disappeared. It is a pity that dynasties rise and fall for thousands of years. Finally, the Xinwu Empire was unable to escape this curse, and from then on, the Xinwu Empire existed in name only. The seventh prince who ascended the throne was just a puppet of three first-level empires. The reason why there are three is that the forces supporting the second prince have been completely eradicated. The forces supporting the third prince are still very powerful, and they have reached an agreement with the forces supporting the seventh prince. The two sides will no longer fight, because they are also afraid that the neutral forces will take advantage. The empire's forces were reshuffled, and the battle in the center ended, but the war at the bottom has just begun. 3 months later, a wandering master came to Guancheng where Wang Shuo was. His eyebrows were somewhat similar to the second prince. Although this man was dressed in rags and was a little crazy, he was surprisingly strong. Wang Shuo accidentally heard about this strange thing and wanted to see it. Wang Shuo found a soldier to lead the way, and soon saw this wandering beggar master. He was ragged, with messy hair, dry and tangled. He was dirty and looked like a standard beggar. At this time, he was fighting with several soldiers. "Come on, if you beat me, you will have steamed buns to eat." A top general directly used this beggar as a sparring partner. Wang Shuo did not approach directly. Standing in the distance, he observed with interest. During this period, Wang Shuo has carried out hard training for these prospective generals, but if he wants to break through, he still needs an opportunity. Fighting against masters is undoubtedly an excellent way. So Wang Shuo did not stop him. The man who fought against the beggar was called Zhao Gang, and Wang Shuo had some impression of him. The two were just sparring, so they did not use weapons. The weapon Zhao Gang is good at is also a spear. In the Dawei area, a large number of people regard Wang Shuo as their idol and compete to use spears. Of course, these people's fist and foot skills must also be learned. Zhao Gang changed his footsteps, and his fists were sharp. He hit the beggar's chest with a goat head move. Logically speaking, he should be repelled, but the beggar was not repelled, but Zhao Gang was knocked back a few steps. This shocked everyone watching the battle around. Wang Shuo was also a little surprised. Now he could not use the reconnaissance skill, and could only judge the opponent's strength by the opponent's breath. Wang Shuo could not judge the opponent's strength for a while. The beggar was completely on defense. It seemed that there was no method, but it was very relaxed, as if he was fighting by instinct. "Okay, come again." Although Zhao Gang was repelled, he was more excited. His offensive moves became more and more fierce. As he fought, he seized an opportunity and used another old ape holding peach. But the beggar punched him in the chest at a faster speed. He flew backwards dozens of meters. Wang Shuo's pupils shrank suddenly. The power of this move could not be performed without the strength of a general. "I won, I have steamed buns to eat, I have steamed buns to eat." The beggar cheered and danced. Zhao Gang was a little unconvinced and wanted to attack again. Wang Shuo came out and stopped their fight. "Enough, you are not his opponent." Zhao Gang and others were a little panicked when they saw Wang Shuo appear. "Meet the county magistrate." "Disperse." Wang Shuo asked the soldiers to retreat, and then walked to the beggar. "Do you want to drink and eat meat?" Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 436. The beggar looked at Wang Shuo, then shook his head and muttered, "I don't drink alcohol, I don't eat meat, I eat steamed buns." Wang Shuo looked at the beggar in surprise. He must have been an ordinary person before to have such skills. Okay, let's eat steamed buns. Follow me. Wang Shuo took him to the canteen in the military camp and ordered someone to bring a steamer of big white steamed buns. Eat. There are enough steamed buns. The beggar immediately started eating with a smile. Before he finished one, he took another one and stuffed it into his mouth in big mouthfuls, looking like he hadn't eaten for many days. He choked after eating a few bites. Wang Shuo ordered someone to bring some water. Just when the beggar was eating happily, Wang Shuo suddenly attacked and punched the beggar in the face. Wang Shuo wanted to test the beggar's true strength. Just when the fist was about to approach the beggar's nose, the beggar grabbed Wang Shuo's fist with a big hand. Although Wang Shuo just made a random attack, it was a sneak attack, but the beggar's reaction still surprised Wang Shuo greatly. If converted into agility value, the beggar's agility is not inferior to Wang Shuo. Wang Shuo knew it in his heart and joked, "A fly just flew by, eat slowly." Wang Shuo took the beggar in the barracks and gave him a place to stay. At the same time, Wang Shuo also sent some soldiers to investigate the origin of the beggar. After all, a strange master sneaked into the city. Wang Shuo was still a little worried. A few days later, Wang Shuo got the news that no one knew where the beggar came from. Wang Shuo even asked Dong Fangke, who just said that he came from the direction of the Central Dynasty. He didn't know more specifics. After the investigation was fruitless, Wang Shuo ignored the matter. Because something more important happened at this time. The Demon King broke through to the strongest king. This matter was like a big earthquake. The forces near Taixu Ridge suddenly became nervous. Wang Shuo was also ready to retreat to the Great Wall at any time. As for advancing and retreating with Dong Fangke and Wang Zhu, as long as his brain was not broken, he would definitely not do it. Just when Wang Shuo was uneasy, a mysterious master suddenly came to Guancheng. This person called himself the Sword God. He started a killing spree in Guancheng. Wang Shuo heard someone making trouble at the city gate and rushed over immediately. Feeling the other party's breath, Wang Shuo was horrified. Damn, this is the breath of the king. The Demon King did not see it, but met the Sword God first. Wang Shuo secretly said that it was bad luck and ran away immediately. But he was soon stopped. The Sword God was originally looking for the second prince, but when Wang Shuo approached, he seemed to feel the breath of the Ice Phoenix Emperor. Boy, have you seen an ice bird? Wang Shuo's heart trembled, and he thought to himself that it was bad, and the real owner came to the door. Wang Shuo wanted to deny it, but facing the Sword God, he would probably be arrested even if he denied it. Without nonsense, Wang Shuo ran away. This clearly told the Sword God that he was trying to cover up his crime. But Wang Shuo had no better solution. The Sword God sneered. He blocked Wang Shuo in a moment. Wang Shuo immediately took out the Shura demon-breaking spear and surrendered, which was not Wang Shuo's style. Oh, it's still a Shura, the Sword God sneered, it's a pity that the level is a little low. As he said that, he rushed towards Wang Shuo and stretched out his right hand to catch Wang Shuo. He did not use a long sword. He didn't take a character like Wang Shuo seriously. Facing the casual grab of the Sword God, Wang Shuo did not dare to neglect it at all. He immediately launched a big move. Flying Dragon in the Sky. A giant dragon pounced on the Sword God with its fangs and claws. Barely resisted the attack of the Sword God. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 437. Wang Shuo immediately turned around and fled. It was obvious that Wang Shuo was no match for the Sword God. Moreover, fighting in the city would hurt innocent people. Wang Shuo took advantage of the chaos and fled outside the city. But the Sword God chased him relentlessly, and soon, Wang Shuo was caught up again. "Little bastard, you still want to escape? Tell me, did you let the Ice Phoenix go?" With this reminder, Wang Shuo simply released the Ice Phoenix. At least the Ice Phoenix could share some of the Sword God's attacks. Seeing the Sword God, the Ice Phoenix was also dumbfounded. So soon, he came to the door. "Master, let's go quickly, we can't beat him." Need you say, Wang Shuo released the Ice Phoenix just to delay a little time. But the Sword God was much faster than Wang Shuo and the Ice Phoenix. Wang Shuo had no chance to escape. So, Wang Shuo turned around to meet the enemy. Since he couldn't escape, Wang Shuo calmed down instead. The Ice Phoenix suffered a great loss at his hands, and it has not recovered to its peak until now. An ice spike condensed in the air and flew directly towards the Sword God. The Sword God finally drew out his long sword and chopped it lightly, knocking the ice spike off. Wang Shuo was no longer afraid, and activated the multiplication technique, kept his distance, released his ultimate move, and quickly stacked his passive. With the joint efforts of the Ice Phoenix Emperor and Wang Shuo, they were able to barely block the Sword God's attack. This surprised the Ice Phoenix Emperor. This shouldn't be the case. The Ice Phoenix Emperor soon reacted. "Master, the Sword God must be injured." Hearing what the Ice Phoenix Emperor said, Wang Shuo felt a little relieved. In the Battle of Xinwu City, the Sword God also participated. Under the siege of many masters, he was already seriously injured. Fortunately, after escaping, he was not blocked by the tracking masters, so he had a chance to breathe and recovered some strength. At this time, he did not dare to use too much force, fearing that the old injury would relapse. This gave Wang Shuo a chance. Wang Shuo's anger gradually accumulated, and soon he turned on the red pupil state, and the speed of the iteration became higher and higher, almost doubling. Wang Shuo was thinking, is it possible for his Shura slash to hit the opponent? And after hitting, is it possible to seriously injure the opponent? Wang Shuo had never thought of killing. The strength of the strongest king must have a way to save his life. After a long stalemate, the Sword God suddenly lost his patience. A mid-level warrior, plus a star-level boss, actually fought with him for so long, it was a great shame. So, he suppressed his injuries and broke out. The long sword in his hand turned into the size of a door panel and quickly slashed at Wang Shuo. Facing the powerful attack of the Sword God, Wang Shuo did not dare to be arrogant and directly turned on the absolute defense. He planned to take the opponent's attack head-on, and then confront the opponent head-on, accumulating anger at a faster speed. The door-like long sword slashed at Wang Shuo. Although Wang Shuo was not injured, he was thrown hundreds of meters away by the huge force. Logically speaking, Wang Shuo should have vomited blood, fallen to the ground, and even had multiple broken bones. But Wang Shuo walked out of the smoke and dust as if nothing had happened. The Sword God's eyes changed leisurely. Could it be that this kid mainly practiced the skill of being beaten? He was a little unconvinced. As a Sword God, could he not kill a mid-level warrior? Even if he was injured, it would be a joke if it was spread out, which would damage his reputation as a Sword God. You know, there are not many people with the title among so many strongest kings. So he used his internal strength, and the magic sword in his hand flew out again, stabbing Wang Shuo's chest. Not surprisingly, Wang Shuo could not avoid the Sword God's big move attack at all. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 438. The reason why they were able to fight for several rounds before was that the opponent did not use a big move. Wang Shuo flew backwards again, stirring up a pile of dust. Under the surprised eyes of the Sword God, Wang Shuo walked out again. At this time, the Sword God reacted and realized that this kid should have activated a skill like invincibility. The Sword God was knowledgeable and soon realized Wang Shuo's state. So he stopped wasting his internal energy and focused on dealing with the Ice Phoenix Emperor. In his prime, the Ice Phoenix Emperor could not even resist a big move of the Sword God. But now, after being hit hard by the Sword God, the Ice Phoenix Emperor was only slightly injured. Wang Shuo is now in an invincible state, so he will not waste time. So he launched a crazy attack on the Sword God. He still did not release Shura Slash. The more anger he has, the more powerful Shura Slash is. The internal energy in Wang Shuo's body recovered quickly in the red pupil state. As long as he can release a skill, Wang Shuo will release it immediately. Soon, the time for absolute defense is coming. Wang Shuo immediately stepped forward and approached the Sword God, preparing to release Shura Slash at close range. Wang Shuo thought that even if there were control skills, the Sword God would probably break free quickly, or even be immune. He had encountered immune control before. Finally, Wang Shuo got the chance, Iron Chain Binding and Shura Slash. The two skills were seamlessly connected. The Sword God was shocked to see Wang Shuo burst out with such a powerful blow. He was seriously injured and might not be able to take this blow. Even if he took this blow, he would probably be injured. Little thief, you are playing dirty. The Sword God immediately cast a light shield to cover his body. At the same time, the long sword burst out with dazzling light in the sky. But it was not fired. Shura Slash slashed on the light shield, and there was a huge explosion around. Although the light shield resisted most of the damage, the Sword God was still chopped and flew backwards. Obviously, the Sword God was seriously injured again, and the injury was more serious than the battle in Jinwu City. Wang Shuo's attack was almost equivalent to a full-strength attack from a high-level general. Just when Wang Shuo thought the outcome was decided, the Sword God's sword in the sky moved. It attacked Wang Shuo's neck with lightning speed. Wang Shuo's invincible state at this time was over. This is the terrifying thing about the Sword God. Even if he is seriously injured, he must fight back. Wang Shuo's soul suddenly flew away. Obviously, this is also a big move of the Sword God. If Wang Shuo still has health attributes at this time, I'm afraid only blood is left. Because he also has a passive skill, immune to fatal blows. Although he was not beheaded by a sword, he was already in a state of death. If he was not treated in time, death was only a matter of time. The Sword God's sword circled in the air, returned to the Sword God, and disappeared with the Sword God. At this time, Wang Shuo couldn't even speak. But he was not very panicked in his heart. After all, he still had a resurrection coin. It's just that he didn't know how to change this dying state. At this moment, no matter what he did, he couldn't wake up. Now he seemed to be in a mysterious space, unable to find a way out. After a brief panic, Wang Shuo decided to practice the Black Dragon Sutra and Dragon Spear technique. He thought of Aub's breakthrough before his death. Could it be the same? So, he calmed down and practiced slowly. Time seemed to have passed for a long time, as long as several years, but in the outside world, it was only a few breaths. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 439. The Ice Phoenix Queen was also a little nervous at this time. She wanted Wang Shuo to die, but she didn't want him to die, and she felt a little conflicted. Just as she was thinking about it, Wang Shuo woke up. There was an amazing aura all over his body. He broke through to the advanced general. But his injuries were not completely recovered. He took out 2 drops of water of life and poured them into his mouth, and his injuries recovered quickly. Congratulations, Master, your strength has reached a higher level. The Ice Phoenix Queen was shocked to see Wang Shuo wake up and his strength had surpassed hers, and hurriedly said. Wang Shuo ignored the Ice Phoenix Queen, he just wanted revenge. You know which direction the Sword God escaped from? I know. Very good, let's chase. Wang Shuo stood on the Ice Phoenix Queen and flew quickly in one direction. Now that the Sword God was seriously injured, Wang Shuo had a chance to beat him. Wang Shuo thanked Master Zak again in his heart. If it weren't for this divine water, he didn't know how long he would have to heal his injuries. But what annoyed Wang Shuo was that he searched in this direction for 2 whole days, but he did not find any trace of the sword god. Your ability to escape is first rate. Wang Shuo had to return in disappointment. The situation in Taixu Ridge was quite delicate now. War could break out at any time. It had been several days since Wang Shuo heard the news of the Demon King's breakthrough. But in Taixu Ridge, although the situation was tense, the demons did not attack. This made Wang Shuo a little puzzled. So he sent a message through the chat group to ask Wang Zu what the situation was now. His spy had been lurking for too short a time, and had not yet found out any specific information. As early as the last meeting, they had added each other as friends. Wang Junxiao, I am not very clear about the true situation of the demons, but I guess they must be at war with the Roland Empire. Wang Shuo also had the same idea, but no matter who won, it would not be a good thing for Wang Shuo and others. The best situation is to maintain a peaceful state. But the development of things was not what Wang Shuo could predict. Half a month later, news came from the front. The monsters won a tragic victory. The border of the Roland Empire collapsed, and the Wagliang Empire took the opportunity to annex 1/3 of the territory of the Roland Empire. The area of this territory is not small, almost more than twice the size of the Wagliang Empire. The reason why the Roland Empire did not send a large army to reinforce was because a more dangerous war was taking place on another front of the Roland Empire. The Demon King was also seriously injured in this battle, and 2 of the 4 Demon Kings were also injured. But it was enough, one was responsible for defending the occupied area on the Western Front. Another Demon King asked the Demon King to expand the western part, that is, the territory of Taixuling. The Demon King readily agreed. The war with the demons was imminent. When Wang Shuo got the news, he was also shocked. He immediately withdrew the ordinary soldiers in the city to the inside of the Great Wall. He also took the Hell Knights and 1,000 top generals to wait under the Great Wall. Wang Shuo also planned to let these people see blood and try to fight the beasts head-on. If they really couldn't hold on, they could still retreat to the Great Wall defense line at the speed of the cavalry. After waiting for a few hours, the beasts arrived as expected. Every time the demons attacked, they used low-level beasts as cannon fodder. Wang Shuo was very familiar with this. Wang Shuo himself was already a high-level general. Even if he was trapped in the beast tide, he was not afraid. On the contrary, killing the beasts could increase his anger and facilitate a protracted war. Therefore, Wang Shuo planned to stick in the beast tide like a nail. As for the other generals, they could retreat to the city wall after charging a wave. This was Wang Shuo's plan. In the blink of an eye, the beasts surged over. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 440. At first, the beasts that rushed up were weak. Wang Shuo could kill a large number of them with a sweep. The beasts were as fragile as paper and fell in groups. The top generals could also kill them instantly, and the slaughter was carried out recklessly on the plain. This kind of hardy battle made countless generals extremely excited. In several battles with monsters, they could only passively defend, and rarely had the opportunity to fight with such dense beasts in close combat. The fight lasted less than 10 minutes. The demon leader Koba, who was in unified command, saw that the situation was not right and immediately sent the elites of the demon tribe to attack. Most of them were above the gold boss level. The demon tribe led by Koba this time had a number of only more than 10 million, and the demon beast troops also had 2 million. In terms of top combat power, he himself was a high-level general, and he had 7 monster bosses with the strength of intermediate generals under him. The overall strength was already extremely strong. Because the war on the Western Front was carried out simultaneously, the monster army was divided into three routes. The Supreme Commander, the Monster King Rag, did not follow Koba to attack the Great Hawaii Territory, but went to attack Dongfangke. The monsters had no idea that Wangshuo had broken through to the advanced level. In Koba's view, most of the warriors in the Great Hawaii Territory had entered the three-star secret realm, and the remaining advanced combat power was very rare. Even if Wangshuo broke through to the advanced level, he would not be afraid. He should be able to deal with it, and he still had so many men. He stood on the hillside and carefully observed the battlefield situation. He decided to send a large number of cannon fodder to trap Wangshuo and let him kill slowly, and wait until he was exhausted, and then he would do it himself. At the same time, he sent his own general-level strength to annex this group of generals with good combat power under the Great Wall. For insurance, he even sent 4 intermediate generals. For these generals, the intermediate generals can definitely kill a large number of them with one skill. The idea is very beautiful. The intermediate general of the monsters, with a large group of ferocious monsters, rushed forward in a mighty manner. But before the two sides fought, the Hell Knights and top generals on the opposite side retreated. Seeing this, Koba was very proud in his heart. The opposite side was indeed vulnerable. So he ordered an attack on the city. A large number of monsters began to join the siege team. Under the command of Ayub, the soldiers defending the city began to fight back in an orderly manner. The top generals came to the city wall, immediately put away the ropes they climbed up, and then joined the defense of the city. Tung oil, rockets, rolling stones, and other city defense materials quickly poured down. Under the city wall, the screams of various monsters came one after another. There was thick smoke everywhere, and the pungent smell of burning made people sick, but most of the soldiers had participated in the battle to defend the city and could barely adapt. This time, Wangshuo decided to accumulate enough anger first, and then kill the opponent's commander in one fell swoop. In this way, the monster will collapse without a commander, and even if it does not collapse, it will be easier to deal with it without a strong commander. As long as the anger is enough, Shura/ will definitely kill the opponent's high-level general in seconds. Moreover, Wangshuo can also release the Ice Phoenix Emperor. 2 high-level generals can deal with one at the same time, which will definitely be no problem. This is also the reason why Wangshuo has not released the Ice Phoenix Emperor so far. At that time, a sudden attack will definitely be successful in one fell swoop. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 441. Both sides were proceeding in an orderly manner according to their own plans. Both sides thought that their plans were perfect. Wangshuo glanced back and saw 4 intermediate warriors climbing up the city wall and killing people. Wangshuo felt something was wrong. He estimated that the accumulated anger should be almost gone. So he rushed towards Koba quickly. Koba was not afraid when he saw Wangshuo coming to kill him, and even looked down on him. How could a commander be surrounded by enemies? He was just a brainless, reckless man. Since you have fallen into the trap, don't blame me for being rude. Koba snorted coldly and jumped over directly, intending to take Wangshuo down personally. At this moment, Wangshuo released the Ice Phoenix Emperor. Wangshuo and the Ice Phoenix Emperor cooperated, and even the injured sword god could fight against him, not to mention Koba. The Ice Phoenix Emperor used a big move, Ice 1,000 miles. Although for Koba, this skill may not necessarily freeze him, but it can delay him for a few seconds after all. Wangshuo seized the opportunity and used Shura/. Koba was killed before he could react. Moreover, a large area of the surrounding monsters was frozen, and the monsters below the level of generals were directly frozen to death. Although this skill did not reach an area of 1,000 miles, it was at least thousands of square meters, and the monsters suffered heavy losses. The remaining high-level monsters, standing on the Great Wall, saw the scene in front of them and were a little overwhelmed for a while. "Your leader has been killed, why don't you surrender quickly?" Wang Shuo shouted loudly, his voice like a bell. Without the control of high-level monsters, many low-level monsters immediately began to flee. The 4 intermediate general-level monsters on the wall also retreated quickly, without the idea of fighting again. What a joke, the star-level boss was killed, and he didn't run away and stayed as a prisoner. Just when Wang Shuo won a great victory. Wang Zhu and Dong Fangke were not so lucky. Sunset City was also surrounded by monsters. Fortunately, the entire city has been built like an iron barrel. And Wang Zhu withdrew all the combat forces from other cities in advance. This is how they can hold on. Of course, there is another more important reason, that is, the Demon King Rag is not here. The Demon King Rag is standing outside Qingyang City at this time. Looking at the Qingyang City in front of him, which is on full alert. He frowned. To break through such a city, one is to use long-range firepower to continuously consume the energy of the defensive light curtain. When the energy is exhausted, you can launch a large-scale attack. Of course, the Demon Clan is more direct and directly sends low-level cannon fodder to fight hard. There is another method that is more violent and direct. High-end combat power directly releases a devastating big move to directly shatter the light curtain. This involves the strength of the light curtain and the high-end combat power of the attack. How strong is it? Obviously, the Demon King Rag has this strength. Under the Demon King, there are many high-level warriors, but there are only 4 Demon Kings. This means that these 4 great demons must be top-notch, and in addition, they have outstanding abilities that other masters do not have. And the Demon King Rag is best at breaking boundaries. He has a natural ability, which is to specifically destroy the artificial barriers above the city. Rag's body is a pangolin. He quickly transformed into his body, a lizard-like demon beast with a body length of more than 30 meters, and appeared under the city wall. His body is covered with scales, and his long and pointed mouth is like a black iron rod. There is no luster on it, and it looks ordinary, but he has used this iron rod to destroy the barriers of countless cities. Dong Fangke stood on the city gate tower and saw this pangolin, and he felt something was wrong. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 442. He immediately called his trusted butler. If the city is broken later, you take the young lady and go to Wangshuo immediately. Lord. Dong Fangke said no more. The butler showed a painful expression on his face, sighed, and retreated. Outside the city. Rag kicked his limbs and flew above the barrier, and gently touched it with an iron rod. The barrier that was so solid just now was like a soap bubble, bursting. Even though Dong Fangke was prepared, he was still shocked by this change. A special horn of the demon clan sounded. Woo woo woo. Countless demons rushed to the top of the city. On the city wall, various crawling monsters scrambled to climb, and there were various monsters in the air, swooping down on the soldiers in the city. It can be said that once the barrier was broken, the entire city was basically occupied. The monsters led by Rag were quite powerful. In addition, Rag personally rushed to the top of the city, and no one could stop him. Dong Fangke was torn to pieces on the spot before he lasted 2 minutes in the hands of Rag. A year ago, the big boss who could still give orders to the novice trials fell. After capturing the city, the demons did not massacre. The demons also need human captives, and many high-level demons like human captives very much. Whether used for singing and dancing entertainment or for construction and mining, humans are good slaves. At worst, they can be used as food. The housekeeper immediately led Dong Fangling to break through, but unfortunately, they were not able to escape and were captured by the demons. A beautiful human woman like Dong Fangling can still be sold at a good price in the slave market. Rag was very happy to see that the entire Qingyang city was under control. But at this time, a demon soldier brought him very bad news. "My Lord Demon King, Commander K, Koba is dead." "What?" Rag's voice suddenly dropped a few degrees, and he gently rolled his slender tongue, and the demon soldier was directly rolled into his mouth. After chewing a few times, he spit it out again. "Low-end blood tastes too bad." "Humph, you have some skills, and you are indeed the one favored by His Majesty the Demon King. I'll let you live a few more days." According to Rag's plan, he would first take down Qingyang City and Sunset City, and then attack Dawei territory. Without him doing it himself, this kind of barrier on the city wall would be very time-consuming and laborious to consume. This is not in the interests of the demon race. After all, if too many demon soldiers are lost in conquering a piece of land, His Majesty the Demon King will still blame it. After escorting the captives back to the royal court, Rag immediately led his men and rushed to Sunset City. At this time, Wang Zhu was standing in the temple, anxiously waiting for the high priest to divine. Ever since the monsters besieged the city, he had been urging the high priest to divine, wanting to know where the chance of survival was. But at this time, he had been waiting in the temple for most of the day, and the high priest did not come out. In desperation, he had to break in. But on the mat, the high priest had already stopped breathing. He was bleeding from his mouth and nose, and it seemed that he died from excessive divination. Wang Zhu slumped on the ground, his eyes slowly losing their spirit. Is it really impossible to escape this time? For a long time, he relied on the divination of the priest, and he could always choose the best plan. At this time, the priest died directly, and Wang Zhu was immediately desperate. The war outside the city continued. The Demon King Rag also quickly came to the outside of the city wall. Following the same method, Sunset City also fell quickly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Chi Wen. Chapter 443. The only thing left was the Great Sephora domain. Rag had broken through 2 cities in a row, and he was a little inflated. He thought that the Great Sephora domain was just like that. After all, the Great Sephora domain was a young force compared to these 2 groups of forces. So he ordered half of the demon soldiers to continue attacking the remaining cities. He took the other half of the demon soldiers to the Great Wall of the Great Sephora domain. At this time, Wang Shuo was inspecting the injured soldiers. Under the treatment of the doctors in the Great Sephora domain, those who survived were basically out of danger. After all, as long as they did not die on the spot, they could basically save their lives with the diluted water of life. As for those who were missing arms and legs, there was no way, and they had to be sent to the rear for retirement. At this time, Wang Shuo received news from the spies. He learned that Sunset City and Qingyang City were successively broken. The Demon King Rag was on his way. Wang Shuo's heart trembled, but his face did not change. He told them to protect themselves and went directly back to the city wall. Ayub was deploying defenses and arranging soldiers to guard the city. Wang Shuo told Ayub about the coming of the Demon King. "Lord, I'm afraid we can't hold this battle." Wang Shuo was a little unsure. Can he beat Rag? Moreover, in terms of high-end combat power, Dawei domain is at an absolute disadvantage. There is only one junior general, Ayub, and there is no intermediate general. It has been several months since Zhao Bangde and his team entered the 3-star secret realm. Wang Shuo's only hope at present is that they can return quickly. In the 3-star secret realm, Zhao Bangde and his team are attacking the last boss. After killing this boss with a human head and a snake body, they can completely control this secret realm. In the past few months, they don't know how many bosses they have killed. In this secret realm, there is something like a hot spring, which can greatly increase their cultivation speed, and more importantly, it can increase their chances of breaking through the bottleneck. It is with the help of this hot spring that Zhao Bangde and his team have basically upgraded one level. Gong Zheng, who had accumulated a lot of experience, was promoted twice and reached the level of a senior general. It was because of a fool like Gong Zheng that they could kill so many powerful bosses and get the resources for cultivation. On the Great Wall outside the Dewey domain, the horn of war had already sounded. Wang Shuo jumped off the wall directly, killing monsters and accumulating anger. In the eyes of the soldiers defending the city, this was no different from a single person fighting against the army of monsters, full of sadness. Wang Shuo held a spear and stood proudly, which was infinitely elongated in everyone's mind. The army of monsters came. The soldiers of the Dewey domain were united and fought against the attack of the monsters. The Great Wall could not ban airspace. The flying monsters were the first wave to launch an attack. But what greeted them were countless bronze spears. After a long period of development, the bronze crossbow technology of the Dewey domain has become very mature. There are already tens of thousands of bronze crossbows in the entire Dewey domain. The number of catapults was also considerable, with more than 8,000. In one round of volleys, 8,000 shells fell on the monster army, causing great casualties. At the same time, there were countless arrow towers and energy towers standing on the Great Wall. The firepower on the Great Wall was still very fierce. If it were only low-level monsters, no matter how many came, they would not be able to rush through. But in the monster army, there were hundreds of platinum-level bosses whose combat power was comparable to that of junior generals. There were also dozens of diamond-level bosses. There were even 2-star-level bosses, one was the Supreme Commander Rag, and the other was Jamie. For the Dewey domain, which lacked high-end combat power, this defect was fatal. Lord Survival, My Shelter in Crocodile Territory. Author, Qi Wen. Chapter 444. Rager looked at Wang Shuo, fighting the monsters alone, and felt that the opponent was at the end of his rope. He smiled contemptuously. Seeing the enemy full of despair would make him more excited. All troops attack. At Rager's command, all the monsters, including Rager himself, rushed out. Seeing this, Wang Shuo felt bad. If so many high-level monsters kill on the wall, the consequences will be disastrous. Wang Shuo immediately released the Ice Phoenix. Rager ignored Wang Shuo and rushed straight to the Great Wall. This was not the situation Wang Shuo wanted to see. So, Wang Shuo took the initiative to approach Rager. "Hey, monster, your opponent is me." Wang Shuo roared, using the verbal taunting skill to attract the boss's hatred. "How can this be tolerated? It's like you are called an ugly monster by a stranger on the street." Rager was immediately angry. On the other side, the Ice Phoenix tried to hold back more high-level bosses as much as possible. But it was just a drop in the bucket. A large number of high-level bosses rushed to the top of the city, and the soldiers defending the city were not even a match for them. A massacre was unfolding on the city wall. But Wang Shuo no longer had the energy to care about the things on the city wall. Rag launched a fierce attack on Wang Shuo. As a demon king, his strength was already top-notch under the strongest king. But Wang Shuo had the Shura bonus, and once he entered the ranks of high-level generals, his strength was not comparable to that of ordinary high-level generals. Rag and Wang Shuo were evenly matched. The two fought back and forth, and the remaining power of the battle killed a large number of demon beasts around. But this could not change the outcome of the war. This time, Dewey domain was doomed. Even in the face of a massacre, the reserve soldiers under the city wall bravely rushed to the Great Wall. Iron-blooded General Ayub was a little bit reluctant to see it. Before the war, Wang Shuo had already explained it. If the war fails, retreat is allowed. Try to keep the manpower as much as possible, enter the city for defense, and delay time. Ayub took a look inside and outside the Great Wall, which was already a purgatory on earth. There were battles everywhere. If you retreat at this time, it is very easy to cause the monsters to chase and kill, resulting in the annihilation of the whole army. But defending the Great Wall and fighting with monsters is not a match at all. After a long time, they will still be slaughtered by monsters. Difficult. Difficult. Ayub felt despair again. Just like the feeling of powerlessness in the past. The beloved cannot be protected, and his subordinates cannot be protected. Full of anger brewing in his heart, he shouted, "No!" The momentum of his whole body suddenly broke out, breaking through the shackles in an instant and rising to the level of an intermediate general. The primary general monster that could suppress him before was killed by him in one blow. Ayub was completely awakened, got rid of the identity of a tool man, and he was free. But even so, he was still powerless to change the current situation. The massacre continued. It suddenly began to rain in the sky. The rain washed away the blood on the wall and flowed down to the lower part. For countless years, such things have happened too many times on this great wall. Ayub asked the heavens speechlessly. Wangshuo was also dragged down by the thick-skinned rag and could not break the situation at all. Just now, he had already used the Ashura once, but rag dodged it and did not cause any substantial damage. The Ice Phoenix Emperor was besieged by a large group of monsters with the strength of intermediate generals, like a trapped beast. The entire battle situation was almost powerless to turn the tide.